They told you the primaries were an internal party matter. They said the real election is still ahead. They said Nigerians should not worry too much about what happens inside party halls. But my brother, that is how democracy is quietly stolen. Not always at the polling unit. Not always with ballot snatching. Not always with violence. Sometimes democracy is stolen earlier, in a party register nobody can verify, in a queue that is counted wrongly, in a result sheet already prepared before the people finish voting, in a so-called consensus where nobody truly consented. And that is why what happened in these primaries should trouble every Nigerian who still believes this country deserves honest leadership. Because before ordinary voters reach the ballot box in 2027, the choices may already have been manipulated. And once the choices are manipulated, the election itself becomes a shadow of democracy. Nigeria, we need to talk. Most Nigerians think elections begin on voting day, and they do not. Elections begin inside political parties. They begin when candidates are selected. They begin when party members decide who will carry the flag. They begin when the field is narrowed, before the public is even invited to choose. So if that first stage is corrupted, the rest of the process is already wounded. That is the danger before us. Party primaries are not political gossip. They are not private family meetings for politicians. They are the foundation of the ballot. And if the foundation is crooked, the building cannot stand straight. Nigeria has seen this pattern before. Party bosses impose candidates, delegates are bought, registers disappear, courts are dragged into political confusion, and ordinary citizens are later asked to choose between people they did not truly select. That is not democracy. That is controlled choice. And controlled choice is one of the most dangerous forms of political deception. Let us talk about the simplest thing in any election: counting. Counting should not be mysterious. One person, one vote, one number after another. But in some of these primaries, even counting became theatre. People were reportedly counted in ways that insult basic arithmetic. Numbers jumped, cues were ignored. Results appeared stronger than the visible process that produced them. And once citizens see that kind of thing, they do not just lose trust in a party. They lose trust in the system. This is why the old memory of option A4 still matters, and not the current option A fraud. For many Nigerians, option A4 represented something simple and visible. You stand behind your candidate. Everybody sees you. Everybody counts you. The process is public and the result is clear. But even the most transparent method can be corrupted by dishonest hands. A clean method cannot save a dirty intention. That is the lesson. The problem is not only the process. The problem is the people who believe they can twist the process and get away with it. Now let us be fair. Nigeria has tried to improve the legal framework. The law has demanded stronger registers. It has tried to reduce manipulation. It has tried to make party primaries more transparent. It has given institutions a role in monitoring the process. But a law that is not enforced is only decoration. It may look strong on paper. It may sound impressive in public debate. But if nobody pays a real price for violating it, the law becomes advice. And Nigerian politicians have mastered the art of treating the law as advice. They manage the process. They manage the outrage. They manage the court cases. They manage the media cycle, and then they move on. And because there is rarely consequence, the same behavior returns every election season with a new costume. That is the tragedy. Nigeria does not lack rules. Nigeria lacks fear of consequences. Let us go deeper. Why do politicians fight so desperately over primaries? Why does a party ticket become a battlefield? Why does internal democracy become war? Because in Nigeria, political office is not just service. Too often it is access. Access to contracts and access to budgets. Access to appointments. Access to influence. Access to survival. When public office becomes the gateway to private advantage, every stage of the journey becomes vulnerable to corruption. That is why the primary becomes so dangerous. Because the real battle is not only over who represents the people, it is over who controls the gate. And where the prize is too large, the temptation to manipulate becomes too strong. This is the political economy of our crisis. You cannot clean up primaries without confronting the larger culture of state capture. You cannot protect democracy when politics is treated as a business investment. You cannot build national trust when candidates emerge through confusion, pressure, and manufactured numbers. Now someone may ask, why should the ordinary Nigerian care? Why should the market woman care? Why should the teacher care? Why should the young graduate looking for work care? Why should the farmer, the driver, the civil servant, the small business owner care? Because bad primaries produce bad choices. And bad choices produce bad governance. When candidates are imposed, loyalty shifts. They do not feel accountable to the people. They feel accountable to the structure that installed them. They owe the godfather. They owe the financier. They owe the faction. They owe the machine. But they do not owe the ordinary Nigerian. And that is how governance loses its soul. The citizen suffers twice. First, they are denied a clean process. Then they are forced to live under the consequences of that dirty process. Poor roads, weak schools, insecure communities, struggling hospitals, rising cost of living, broken promises. And every 4 years, the same people return to ask for patience. My brother, patience cannot replace accountability. There is another danger: apathy. When people see manipulation at the primary stage, many simply withdraw. They say, "What is the point?" They say they have already chosen the winner. They say this country cannot change. But that is exactly what organized manipulation wants. It wants good people to stay away. It wants citizens to be tired. It wants voters to surrender before the contest begins. Because low participation makes manipulation easier. Silence creates space for the worst actors to dominate. So yes, Nigerians are tired. Yes, Nigerians are frustrated. Yes, many people have lost faith. But withdrawal is not a solution. Withdrawal is permission, and a nation cannot be rescued by people who have emotionally resigned from it. So what should happen? First, electoral institutions must act with courage. Monitoring cannot be ceremonial. If a primary violates the law, there must be consequences. If a party cannot prove a lawful process, it should not be rewarded with automatic acceptance. Nigeria cannot keep treating electoral misconduct as normal political drama. Second, political parties must be forced to respect their own members. A party that cannot conduct a credible primary has no moral authority to ask Nigerians to trust it with national power. Internal democracy is not decoration. It is the first test of democratic character. Third, the media and civil society must not move on too quickly. Nigeria has a dangerous habit. We shout for 2 days. We trend for 3 days. Then we forget. That is how impunity survives. The violations must be documented. The pressure must continue. And finally, citizens must prepare for 2027 with clear eyes. Register for election. Verify your voter status. Join civic conversations. Pay attention to the people emerging from these primaries. Do not wait until election week before asking who the candidates are. Democracy rewards attention, and it punishes carelessness. Here is the Amos Perspective. Credible elections do not begin on election day. They begin when the candidates are selected through credible primaries. They begin when the first vote is counted. They begin when institutions decide whether the law is real or just paper. Nigeria's problem is not that we do not know what is right. We know. Our problem is that too many people believe wrongdoing carries no cost. They believe Nigerians will complain and move on. They believe institutions will look away. They believe the courts will be slow. They believe the media will be distracted. They believe citizens will be too tired to insist. And sadly, too many times, they have been correct. But it does not have to remain so. Nigeria deserves a democracy where counting is honest, where party members matter, where candidates emerge from real choice, not manipulation, where political power is earned, not manufactured. Because when the count is corrupted, the mandate is corrupted. And when the mandate is corrupted, governance begins with a lie. Nigeria cannot keep building its future on lies. The shadows in the count are visible. The question is whether we will pretend not to see them. This is not just about parties. This is about the country. And if we still believe Nigeria is worth saving, then we must insist that democracy begins from the beginning. Not at the end. Not after the damage is done, but now. Thank you for watching the Amos Perspective. I am Engineer Amos. If this conversation matters to you, share this episode. Like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Nigeria needs more voices in this conversation. Yours is one of them.